Welcoming now Sven Denton, the Principal Consultant of Analytical Consulting Services, to the stage. Now, Sven has been in this role for over 16 years. AquaKlar is a provider of analysis services related to water quality and hygiene, focusing in the health, education and manufacturing sectors. Prior to this, Sven worked with the international water treatment companies such as ICI, Suez and NALCO in both Australia and the United Kingdom. Sven has a Bachelor of Science degree in Applied Chemistry, is a Cert 2 water quality trainer and a member of the AIRAH for 4 years. Please join me in welcoming Sven Denton.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? Good. My thanks to the organisers for inviting me to come today, to Catherine and Michael Cambridge. Also, my thanks to the previous speakers. I only caught the second half of the morning, but some fascinating talks. And generally speaking, a broad subject on breathing in Australia in healthcare. What I'm going to talk about, though, is something a bit more specific. I'm hoping to touch on greening in healthcare a little bit, but what I'm going to do is have an overview of, in particular, reverse osmosis and Australian Standard 4187. So, first of all, just see if this works. A quick bit of blatant self-promotion. Thank you for Grace. Thank you for Grace for my introduction. A quick rundown of who I am. I'm a water chemist, basically, been in the industry for quite a few years. I work for a company called AquaKlar. I do lots of stuff. And should you want to talk to me about any of that, please by all means see me. However, what I really want to talk to today, of course, is about the Australian standard AS4187. And this standard is related to the reprocessing of reusable medical devices in health service organisations. So I'm hoping there's some people here from engineering or from CSSD or from senior management, and this will be of interest to you. If not, please bear with me. Obviously on the graveyard shift. I'm the person between you and lunch, so just care to just stand by, that'll be fine. Okay, so AS4187, as I say, is a standard around managing reprocessing of reusable medical devices. Its first incarnation was in 1994, I believe, and it's gone through a couple of revisions in 1998 and 2003. It came on my radar in 2014 as a water chemist because at that time, the Australian Standards Committee introduced the infamous Table 7.2, which I have, let's get the mouse, I put over here. And this is what has caused so much angst within the engineering, CSSD, infection prevention, management, accounting world, because all of a sudden there's now a requirement to implement water quality, which is significantly better than you find coming through the tap. And it caused so much difficulty for people that a couple of years later, the Australian Commission on Safety and Quality introduced an advisory note stating that hospital and healthcare industries can have a soft start to this standard, and they get, as long as you implement certain prerequisites, such as writing a gap analysis and documenting implementation plan, you have a 5-year grace period of implementation. So, as things stand at the moment, things have to be, the Australian standard has to be implemented by December 2021. In the meantime, obviously the Australian standards people realised that they'd introduced quite an onerous standard on healthcare, and they did a revision to the standard amendment 2, which came out a couple of months ago in May 2019. So, I write down here, see next slide, I was going to talk about this amendment and where the standard is right now. And then after written this presentation on Wednesday last week, Michael McCambridge kindly sent me this advisory note from the Australian Australian Commission on Safety and Quality in Healthcare, which is an additional advisory note stating, as it says here, organisations may return to the pre-2014 standard in respect to water quality only. So the rest of the standard is still in place. For water quality, table 7.2 thing, that is on hold, certainly until November 29th, and could possibly be on hold for longer than that, depending on what the outcomes are from the Australian Commission on Safety. So it could be that the rest of my presentation is null and void, and we could all go to lunch now. But since I wrote this presentation, I'm going to soldier on, if you don't mind. So this is the slide I was going to come to next, and this is where things are as we speak now. If we put the previous slide to one side for a moment. And the big issue, as you see here, this is the current standard. The revision in the current standard means that they've introduced a preamble. So they've made the wash water quality a little less stringent, and that is actually typical. That can be achieved with typical water quality, certainly in Melbourne and many of the other capital cities. But they've slightly increased the specification on the table 7.2, which is the water quality that goes into the final rinse of a reprocessor washer. The other thing they've done in the new amendment in May is they've introduced table 7.3, which is specific to thermolabile washer disinfectants, rendoscope, sorry. And this is a little bit outside of the scope. This standard can be achieved without RO, so it's a little bit outside the scope of this presentation today. But if you have some concerns about that, please by all means get in contact. So what we'll talk about then is why this standard is so problematic. And fundamentally, the issue is that it's completely unachievable with the current water quality that comes through the tap. So I've taken some water qualities for Melbourne, and Melbourne probably has the best water quality of all the capital cities in Australia. So if Melbourne can't achieve it, then nobody else is going to, really. And as we go through these, you can see conductivity requirements and standards in the table is 30. The quality that comes through the tap is significantly higher than that. As we go through each one, you see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parameters that really would be unachievable without some sort of water treatment to the water prior to going into the final wash. So what is the fix? Well, there are a number of fixes, actually. You can use distilled water, you can use demineralized water, but the choice of who approve of most is by using reverse osmosis. It's the most economically viable and solution. It's probably about a third the price of the other methodologies that are possible, that are available to you. So, I presume many of you will understand what reverse osmosis is, but I'll just quickly go through it, primarily just to refresh your memory and also introduce you to some of the key words that are related to reverse osmosis. First thing to mention is this slide here. As we all know, nature hates a vacuum, and it applies to solutions as well. So if you mix a solution with minerals in it, with a solution with less minerals in it, you mix them together, they will gradually over time equal out to an average concentration. So if you were to separate a concentrated solution with a weaker solution, and you separate them with a semi-permeable membrane, which only allows water through and none of the other materials in the water will naturally want to flow from this side into this side to dilute this side and make both sides equal. You'll see this physically as a drop in the level, which is represented as a pressure change. So that's osmosis. That's really what osmosis is. So what we can do is reverse the process. So we just put enough pressure on this side, we can push effectively the water back. And that process produces this water with a lower level of concentration of minerals in it. So the amount of pressure required is really quite high, but it's certainly achievable. What happens, I'll introduce a few key words. So we call the water on the dilute side permeate. This is the treated water. We call the water left behind the membrane the concentrate. And then the rate at which this is produced would be the permeate flow, the difference between this pressure and this pressure, the differential pressure. And then we have this other term called percentage rejection, which effectively gives a percentage value to the concentration of water that's rejected, that's removed. So if we say something 90% rejected, that means that 90% of the minerals have been taken out of that water. So you would never use an RO plant on its own. They're way too fragile devices. So we would implement some sort of pre-treatment and post-treatment program. Can you see this? As I go, I'll walk through this engineers all over this, of course. I'll walk through the process of how we actually generate RO, or reverse osmosis water. First of all, it's good to measure things, so we'll put a meter on at the front end. Then reverse osmosis membranes are really quite fragile things, and one of the things that will damage them most quickly is chlorine. So if you would have water that's chlorinated being presented to an RO, you want to remove that chlorine first. So you'd have local dechlorinators, which are really carbon filters. The carbon take the chlorine out, and they'll also act as gross filters. Now, in certain parts of Australia, you might have a significant level of hardness in the water, and again, RO plant don't like hardness. In Melbourne, we have not got enough hardness in the water that we need to put softeners in. But if you are in somewhere like Adelaide or Western Australia or Central Australia, you'd have some softening in place. Usually have these in duplex so that you can do maintenance on them. And then we have some filtration to take out the finer materials down to 0.2, 0.3 microns, and then we have the RO unit. Now, an RO unit will always reject the concentrates. That's how they work. So you'll run the concentrate to water, and if you meter this and you meter this, then you can work out how efficiently it's running. And then the permeate, the clean water, then goes off to process. Now, normally, they go to, as I said, a minute to washers or tunnel washers or batch washers or thermolabile washers, and they have a high demand of water over a short period of time. So you never design an RO to manage that demand. You typically put it into some sort of storage. And so it goes to storage, ready for use like a reservoir, and then from there it's pumped at a very high pressure. Sorry, this is where the high pressure is pressed the RO. It's then pumped to service, typically through some more UV ultraviolet for managing bacteria, and then on through another filter typically, and away to use. What's not used then go back and go into storage. The whole thing's circulating and kept moving. So that's a typical configuration. In reality, I find some bits are missing, some bits are in different places, but fundamentally that's the way it normally looks. On the next slide, I've got some photographs of what you actually see in the field. So this, if you went to an RO units in a hospital, typically they're in a plant room, they cover about 4 square meters of space. You see pre-filtration, you see microfiltration, you have UV disinfection, some more filtration on the loop, some high pressure pumps to run through the RO units, and then here's the storage. And the storage here, for example, has actually UV inside it to actually irradiate bacteria that are growing in the tank, and also has an air filter so that as the levels go up and down and air goes in and out, you're not introducing microbiological contamination into the tank as we go. So that's one example of a configuration I see. This is another example of a UV. Again, pre-filtration, carbon filter, filtration down to 0.2, the UV disinfection system, and then in this case, this is the RO unit here. You can see the actual RO cylinders here behind the actual control panel, and then storage. And this scenario, they actually have a hot water unit to provide hot water to service. So what are they servicing? They're servicing these guys. These are reprocessor washers, and this is an example of a batch washer. So your utensils are presented to the washer, they're cleaned, so they're washed, and they're washed with the water quality that's described in the preamble to table 7.2, and then they're finally rinsed with the RO water. So RO water is only ever used in the final part of the process. The actual, in fact, you can't use RO for washing. The detergents won't work with it. This is an example of a tunnel washer where they go through continuously. So some myths, do's and don'ts with regards to RO plants that are used to service washers. ROs are not filters, they're not fancy filters. Or ROs will always use loose water, that's how they work. And this is where the greening hospitals comes in. There are some clever things you can do to improve the efficiency of an RO unit by trying to minimize the water losses that go through them, because they are very water hungry devices. They will have to lose water. The skill here is minimizing the amount of water that they lose. The myth is that RO installations are all the same. Well, your choice of RO will depend on what sort of device you have in place, what sort of water treatment is coming in, so what water quality is coming in, and the water quality coming in will drive how you do your pre-treatment. To understand whether your RO unit is using water efficiently, there are a couple of simple things that you can look at. One is look at the recovery rates, also called cycles of concentration. And this is a really simple metric to measure. So just look at the water concentration coming in, water concentration coming out, and the ratio gives you, so coming in, what's being bled away is concentrate, and that tells you how much efficiency you have in the device. You can look at differential pressure. That's another simple metric. So the pressure gauge and again, pressure gauge and if you want to be more sophisticated about what you do, you can try and measure normalized permeate flow. This is really quite complicated. There's some nice internet spreadsheets out there that you can use. I would argue these are things that probably your RO vendor would be looking to do for you. And maybe you'd want to look at the service reports they generate for you to ensure it's what's being done. If you are having problems with your pre-filtration, don't think you're going to fix it by just using filters with bigger holes in. You know, that's not a very effective management program. If you're finding that pre-filtration systems are getting blinded up too quickly, it's probably a microbiological issue that you're having. You can never use RO on its own. It always needs pre-treatments, and your choices of pre-treatment will be, as I say, driven by the water quality that you receive. And the next thing is make sure that you do your sampling programs properly. And there's a standard to this, actually standard 2031, because the water quality that's required for RO is, for the pre-water going into washes is really quite stringent. And if you don't have your sampling regime done correctly, you'll end up getting spurious results. So this is a quick rundown of cycles of concentration, and this is a metric that you can use to understand whether your RO unit is running efficiently or not. So you just measure the water concentration of the conduct going in divided by the concentration coming out, and you can understand whether you are using your system efficiently. And because the relationships are exponential, running systems with low cycles of concentration are significantly water wasting than those with higher concentrations. In RO units, it's very common to see water which is up here, cycles of 3 concentration. If you can get the levels of concentrate up from an RO, you'll use much less water in the operation of the unit. Oops. Yeah. The other metric that people use is percentage rejection. Now, this is a typical scenario that I see where the permeates coming out. So the freshened water is 3 microsiemens, and the water that's presented to it is 100. So we've got a 97% recovery rejection rate, which sounds really good. But in reality, it's too good. And this is where you start thinking about optimizing your RO units, because the parameters that normally there aren't in Melbourne, how much reject you have is the silicate. So you would run that at maybe 80% rather than the 97% performance. The other metric is normalized permeate flow. It is quite a complicated process. Maybe you want to leave that to your service provider. So sampling is a key metric, as I say, for understanding where your RO unit is working properly and whether you have compliance to Australian standard 4187. How you sample is driven by Australian standard 2031. And certainly what you want to be looking at is some sort of aseptic sampling regime, something like these sample points down here. What you don't want to see are sample points like this, because they will intrinsically introduce contamination in the sample, and you will have non-compliant, you think you'll have non-compliant RO unit when actually it may be working quite effectively. Basically, if you're not spending about $200 on your sample point, you probably have got to do so let's look at some real data, some examples of what I've found in the field. And what I've done here is I've taken a poorly run RO unit, a good RO unit, and something that's somewhere in the middle, and give you an idea of what I typically see when I'm doing water analysis on RO and the water quality that's going into CSSD. And what you can see here is the silicates, which is the primary parameter that I look out for with RO, are typically okay. Even with a poorly run unit, they are okay, which means the RO unit itself is functioning quite well. But where it's falling down is in microbiological control. So when you have, so even when it looks like it's a poorly run RO unit, what normally catches you out is microbiological control. And if you are looking at designing an RO unit or understanding how they work, this is where you probably need to focus your efforts in making sure that microbiological control is maintained, and therefore you have compliant bacterial levels and compliant endotoxin levels. So you can see they're all at a specification. Good RO units, they work well, and you know, they operate as expected. So just wrapping up, my observations are when I'm in the real world is that sample points are typically poor. So a lot of these issues are to do with sample points not very good, and therefore they could have been actually okay. It's just I've got contamination in my sample. I typically find that analysis of RO is not well done. People don't look at those parameters that I went through a moment ago. I've had case studies where as much as 90% of the water that goes into our RO unit goes back out. So you only receive 10% of the total flow into an RO. So vast amounts of water is being just put to drain. I typically find that they run too well. You don't need fantastic water to go into CSSD, you just need to be compliant with AS4187. Where there is non-compliance, it's typically microbiological, not mineral. And once you have infection in an RO unit, it's extremely difficult to get rid of it. It requires a great deal of effort to do so. So if you can stop it at the gate, you'll be doing yourself a great favor. Thank you very much.
Sven will be staying with us for lunch in the atrium. Is there one question that anyone has burning to ask Sven right now? We have one burning question. Okay.
Yes. But not the grand scheme of things. I mean, solids and trophies are much bigger. you have to run the whole time. The storage is never usually large enough, but they're not designed that way. But certainly it would be a good idea to the design engineers to maybe think about some storage that will see you through the day. But normally I see the storage is just enough to get you through a wash cycle.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sven, for an insightful presentation, demystifying and simplifying some of the complexities around technologies. Thank you.